Hey, so welcome to Tuesday Chats. You're here with Jade Sterling, your woman's health coach and nurse that helps you to balance your hormones, master your emotions, and live a life you love. And I have Shelby Mathews with me back today because we have been connecting. We connect behind the scenes. And recently, Shelby, you went back through Dr. Paul's 3-day certification training and reached out and said, "Oh, there are these things that we didn't talk about in our last conversation that would be so good for us to be able to bring light, shed light on." And so I was so excited to be able to come back here and have a conversation with you today. And I had to press record because the first thing that you said was, I'm going to say, this is what you said, I wrote it down. Women are craving a healthy family and they're looking to social media and they're looking at influencers and they're trying to figure it out. Can you elaborate on that, please, and help us? Because today we're going to talk about families and what that looks like and what that means for us. We're both mums and in our midlives, trying to navigate as best possible. But I absolutely loved the way that you articulated that point. Women are craving a healthy family. It's something that we're all longing for, something we're all striving for. How do we do it? And can we find it on social media?
That is that's a good question. And I don't think we can find a happy family on social media. That's where we go looking,
Mm,
but I think that's where we go looking for our answers, but I don't think it's there because we keep looking for the ideal and for somebody to help us fix the other person. And so I think our happy family is right in our home once
mm.
we start addressing our family issues, which is going to be totally different than somebody else's family issues. And when we start working with what we've got at home, then we can start finding that happy family.
Yeah.
And part of me wonders if maybe we should change it to healthy family because we want the happy family. And one thing I see in the comments, sometimes I go looking for comments because I'm like, what's going on? What are people looking for? How can I help them? What can I say? And I
Mm.
see a lot of, give me the perfect or the best. And I'm like, but what if there's not the perfect or the best? Like the perfect way to do this with my child or the best parenting model. Like, what if that doesn't really exist and what we need is just principles to help us create a healthy family because there's going to be the ups and downs. There's going to
Mm.
be the roller coaster ride. That's kind of the point of family life, but we don't want that. We want to get to the happy part and we want everybody to be happy. So we go looking for that person that can tell us what to do, or I kind of feel like it's worse. They go for validation on social media. And now I feel
Yes.
validated in my pain, and
Hmm.
I feel validated that my husband isn't treating me the way he should treat me, or my kids aren't acting the way that they should, or my house doesn't look as perfect as it does on the Pinterest board.
Hmm.
And the influencer, now not all influencers, I hope, because I don't want to give influencers a bad rap, but there are some out there that I've been noticing that are totally out there just validating women's emotions because
Ah,
then they're making a buck off
yes.
social media.
Yes. And so
So
we
back to that.
actually, yeah, sorry, keep going.
Oh, I was going to say back to your comment of can we find the happy family on social media? There's a few issues there that are keeping us
Yeah.
from it.
Well, that's what I was just thinking when we go looking for relief and inspiration and solutions on social media. But what you're saying, and I tend to agree with you, is that it doesn't make us feel better. We don't find the relief. We don't find the solutions. We actually just find more problems often, and we find validating our pain that doesn't help us to feel better. That's what you're saying. Generally speaking, it doesn't seem to be helping in that respect. And so, how can we? How can we turn that around? How can we work with that to help us? I love how you said moving away from happy families to healthy families. It's more about the mindset of, because happy can be anything, I suppose, and look, healthy can be too, but I suppose it's more about that middle path of what actually feels like something that's more individual to the family and the people. It's happening on the inside as opposed to what it's going to look like, is what I got from what you just said. How do we move through that? Because social media is still there. It's still got some great things that we can go and we can access, and but there is that element there that is not helping. It's not helping women with their mental health and their goals for what they want for their family. How can we move forward with that, do you
I
think?
think there's a few things that maybe we can keep in mind. I mean, there's probably lots, but I'll just pick a few, right? I think paying attention to who we're listening to, because again, there's the validator, social media influencer who's just there to validate you. And sometimes it does feel good. If we're not getting validation at home or from, we don't want to tell our friends or family about some of our challenges and struggles, and certainly we don't need to air out all our family stuff all over the place, right?
Mm,
But sometimes we do want a little validation. And I'm not saying that's bad. But when we go to social media only for the validation of, yeah, my parents are so toxic, or my spouse is toxic or narcissistic. I kind of am so tired of that word.
it is, it's a
Right?
buzzword at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah, we all have toxic traits, including me, including everybody else, right? We all have narcissistic like traits because we just lack self-awareness and the know-how. So those words, we tend to apply them to everybody but ourselves. So if we're going to social media to just be validated in our emotions consistently, that might be one thing to look for. If the
Mm,
influencers we follow are just there to, pat us on the back and let us know that we're justified in our pain, and
mm,
that's all they're giving us, we might want to find somebody else to
mm,
follow as well. So, on that note, we might go looking for principles. What does a healthy family look like? What are some action steps I can take, regardless of it, whether or not my spouse, my kids, my parents, whoever makes any changes? What can I do? And that is also going to prick us a little bit.
mm.
If we hear something and it triggers us, that might be, not always, that might be actually what we want to be listening to.
Yes. Can you tell me more about that? What does that look like? What does that sound like? What are the principles that we can refer to that can help us in this time?
I think, and again, not just social media, right? It could be books, it could be podcasts, it could be
Yeah.
whoever,
Yeah.
whatever it is we're listening to.
Yeah.
If it's challenging us to look inward and look at the situation through different eyes or from a different angle, that might be a good place to start. Because I
Mm.
found sometimes when I work with couples, actually all the time when I work with couples, I don't ever bring them in together.
Okay.
So, and that's just my personal, the way I do things, because I have found that there's three sides to every story. There's his side, there's her side, and then there's the truth. And when he and I meet, he tells me his issues, whatever it is, however he brings that up. And then I meet with her separately, usually on a different day. And there are many times, most of the times, I'm like, are we talking about the same marriage? They do not match at all. And so he can be addressing his issues. And sometimes it's a little easier when your spouse isn't there. And
Mm.
she can be addressing her issues. And then usually, once they learn the principles, they can come together and work it out themselves. They don't really
Yes.
need me in the middle of that. Sometimes they'll have a therapist, sometimes they'll have another coach, and that's great. That I don't need to be the end all catch all, right?
Mm.
But when we can keep in mind that there's three sides to every story, and it's not even with our spouse, it's with our kids too. One side of the story,
Mm.
the other side of the story, and then there's the truth. And what we really need is to both ideally be getting to the truth. So
Mm.
regardless if our kids or our spouse or whoever is going to stand on principles and move towards the truth, we can do it. We
Yeah.
can look at the truth and correct, because I feel like we all need to be refining ourselves. We all need to be standing on principles, and we don't do it all the time.
Mm.
We just
Yes.
don't.
Tell me
We're
more about the
human.
principles that you're referring to. More about the principles that you're referring
Well,
to.
some of them are the ones that we learn.
Mm.
Some of them are the ones that we talk about in our coaching trainings.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you've covered them on your end, but like the seven principles that we learn with Dr. Paul, things like respect and relationships take work. We want to skip over that. They take
Mhm.
love, they take positivity, they take shared values. So those things that are kind of timeless and
Yeah.
true and principles that go across cultures and generations,
Yeah.
that's what we're aiming for.
Uh-huh. And being able to implement those into your life, being able to apply those in a way where you can, the challenge I think is that it's getting people on the same page, but they're not necessarily having the same story. Does that make sense? So it's what you're saying. You've got the different stories and then you've got the truth, but it's all part of the same page. So it's being able to have different stories and still coexist. I find that that's the challenge to be able to say that it's not always going to be, everyone's not always going to agree. We're not always going to be able to have an element where we're all getting along all the time, where things aren't in harmony, we're not connected, but it's still being able to coexist in that space. And yeah, perhaps maybe that's the challenge when you said that women are craving a healthy family. What do you think that that looks like? Do you think that that looks like, because for me, for a long time, it was that my husband agreed with me. Like
Wouldn't that be nice?
that would be great. And I really fought for that. I was like, surely you see things my way. Like, surely it's my perspective. And that makes more sense. Like, surely you just see that what you're saying just doesn't make sense. But after time, it was realizing that the other thing that you said earlier on was we do try and fix the other person, or we we get on social media and we are validated by the fact that there is something wrong, or it's not as it should be, and those things, we do start to go, yeah, 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 that's right, that's right. But to be able to still be with those things and still be okay and still coexist with a person in that environment, and the same with your children, really. Like, yeah, what does a healthy family look like? What should it look like? Or is that word should the one that we really need to throw out? That's the word, isn't it? Let's get rid of
I think you're right.
it.
What should a healthy family look
Uh-huh.
like? I don't know. And I feel like
Yeah.
I came from a pretty good family, right? But a healthy family, I think, is also going to be a little bit relative because maybe your spouse died. Your
Mm.
healthy family is going to look totally different from the young couple who's married and has little kids. Their
Mm.
healthy is going to look different than my healthy with teenagers. Like
Yeah.
it's not apples for apples, but sometimes I think again, it goes back to social media, which I kind of don't want to keep pulling into this, but that's where we all go.
Yeah, it
We're
is.
either looking at social media or the movies or TV
Mm.
shows. That's not a great example either. But we see these vacation pictures and these smiling families, and look at them, they're all holding hands in the field with the perfect sunset, right? Because it's a photo shoot.
Yeah.
And we want that because we just had a bad day
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
nobody saw my bad day and nobody took my picture smiling with my kids. So
Mm.
there's that comparison
Mm.
and it really throws us for a loop.
Mm.
Or if we're looking at the movies, I don't know, are movies big there? I just assume they're
Oh
big
yes.
everywhere.
Oh yes.
Okay.
Look, Australia, we're the same culture as you guys. We feed off, America. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm like, I
We're
think
the
that's
same.
pretty worldwide. But I was listening, I think I'm getting sidetracked just a little bit, but I was listening to my teenagers not too long ago. They were trying to find a movie to watch. And I've got a teenage daughter and then two teenage sons and then a younger daughter. And the teenage boys obviously want the action-packed
Mm.
type movies, right?
Yeah.
The Marvel movies, the Star Wars movies. And she wants a feel-good comedy or a chick flick.
Yeah,
And
no.
I think sometimes, even at a young age, right, she wants the movie where the guy is the Hallmark guy in the flannel shirt,
Yeah,
the classic Christmas story guy,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And they want the shooting and the rough and tough, and the pictures don't match. And I think in family settings, that's where a lot of clashes happen.
Mm.
And I know I'm stereotyping just a little bit, that's not my intent, but those teenage boys grow up, and I don't think they ever get rid of the action-packed movies, typically speaking.
Yeah, yeah.
And the teenage girls grow up and they still want the love story. And the two don't make a good movie,
Mm.
you know?
Yes, it's a good example. Like I know you can't help but stereotype because stereotypes come from somewhere. They come from the fact that it's a cultural thing that we sometimes can't avoid because they have been implanted in the media and in entertainment and all of those things. So it makes a fair example, I think, that it's a really good demonstration of how there is a mismatch. And from I suppose an early age, from an early age to be able to then go forth into the world and try and find someone or the relationships that resonate with you and feeling that there is a mismatch and being able to still develop healthy, wholesome relationships as adults. So,
Yeah. And I don't think it stops just with the spouses. Of course,
mm,
we don't talk about that when we're dating. And then
mm,
as we're married, in our marriage, he just has his version of what it should look like. And
yeah,
she has her version of what it should look like. And we're not even always talking about this. And I think
yes,
sometimes we don't know that, oh, I want my guy in the flannel shirt. That's really not my ideal guy. I'm just using it as a funny
it's just
example, right? But I might not even know that that's really what I'm wanting is that close
mm,
connection that I thought I saw on the movie. And he's like, I don't know, I want you to go do something with me.
mm,
You know, again, it's not the same thing, but also it doesn't stop with the spouses, it's with the kids too,
mm.
because my teenagers are watching YouTube videos that are super exciting and the families are playing these games. And I'm like, I'm not playing that. I'm not doing that. And we don't have the resources to, I don't know, fill a swimming pool with foam and jump in it? So there's that mismatch of, well, my parents are boring or
Yeah.
my family isn't exciting. And so they start developing their own version of things. And we're like, why can't you keep your room clean like they do on TV?
Yes.
Here we all have these pictures and it's just not working because, like you said, we're not on the same page.
Yes. And we think we should be. We
Yeah.
do. We think we should be. And just it's something that we inherently want. And I've heard Jodie Moore, the Master Certified Life Coach, I've heard her talk about before when she was complaining about her husband, and saying like, why does he have to be so much like him? Like, why can't he be like the Jodie version? It's kind of like it took her a while to try and shift it for herself to be able to say, well, his name's Jake, I think, and he's just being the Jakest Jake that he can be. I want him to be more of a Jodie version. And I started adopting that for myself. I was just like, well, yes, Michael's just being Michael, and there he goes being Michael. But why can't he be more a Jade version of Mike? We still want that, but at the same time, that's why we usually end up with our spouse because they have bits that we don't. That's what's appealing sometimes is to be able to have that perspective and things that complement each other. But sometimes I guess if you don't see them or as time goes on, you think that or you have a desire for it to all be the same, to all just be vanilla. And that's I think where bigger conflict comes in. And reality like YouTube, reality shows like that don't necessarily help, I think, in these particular scenarios. I don't know because I can relate to what you're saying about the swimming pool and the why don't my parents provide, a big field of jello, or why can't we do elephant toothpaste like Mark Rober and a whole soccer
Sure.
field? I mean, it's just kind of like, oh well, it's yeah, there's a little bit more that goes into it behind the scenes. So do you think that it's more about not controlling, but but monitoring how we use our time and what we're doing with our minds and how much that we're watching. I mean, so much of it is cultural, as you said. We have so many stories that we don't even know sometimes are running in the background unless we can become aware and open enough to want to investigate and try and find out what's happening or if things are particularly miserable. It's usually when we get to crisis, right, that we start to actually want to look at these things. But how do we protect ourselves, I suppose, and still be in the world and not of it? There is a question.
That's
It's
a
a
really
big
good question. I'm
question.
like, I'm gonna have to think about that when we're done. Like, oh, can I even answer that right now? How can we
Yeah.
protect ourselves? Well, and I kind of, again, I do think it's a little bit of an individual thing, right?
Mm,
Because everybody's family
100%.
situation
Mm,
is so different. And so, there might be families who have to, I don't want to say isolate, that's not the right word, but there might be some outside factors where they have to pull back a little bit and focus a little bit more on what's going on at home, or there might be a mom who's running away to social media. And so, like you said, she's spending too much time there and she needs to be aware of that. So I
mm,
do think it's more becoming, it goes right back to being aware.
yeah.
What are my goals as a family? Not just mine, but my husband and I, what are our goals? Are
Yeah.
we working towards? How do we even define them? There's a lot of
Yes.
people that don't even think about that until problems are happening. And I'm like, so what direction are you going? What are you trying to do? And they're like, yeah. I've not
Yeah.
heard that before.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's the purpose of this
Absolutely.
marriage? So I think even just stopping and asking yourself that question, like,
Mm,
what do I need? How do I really protecting the family though? What does that
yeah.
even mean?
Mm,
Is it
yeah.
worth protecting?
Mm,
Some of those questions, those are kind of big society questions. Does the family even matter? I
mm.
mean, of course, I think it does.
Yeah. But what's the perspective do you think of that, of someone coming from does that like that as a societal question, does the family even matter? Do you think that that is a message that's coming out there that's being challenged for us to actually really have to think about it? I mean, I know lots of my friends have buy houses together and have babies, but not a lot of people get married. Some people still do,
Oh,
but from my experience, that is kind of the one thing that my Generation X friends in the past have been sort of hanging on to. I'm at least I'm not going to get married and I'm going to keep my surname type thing. I mean, I've also had plenty of friends who've done the opposite and got married and started family units, and but I do notice that there is a difference there. And again, is that because of, and to be honest, they're not Generation X, they're kind of the younger, the millennials that seem that I've come in contact with in my life and some clients and people who are trying to figure it out. So I don't know whether that's something that is a message that we're getting through. Do you think that it's not important? Like, how does that message coming across, do you think, through our culture and what we see?
well, and I'm wondering, what you see culturally versus what I do, because I live in a very religious area.
Mm.
I'm what we call the Bible Belt
Ah,
in
yeah,
the
right.
And so there's a lot of talk in my area. I hear a lot of talk about the attack on the family that's happening here in America. I don't know what the talk is elsewhere, but
Mm,
it definitely is happening here. Big divisions, and not to get, political and all into that, but the traditional family is under attack. And I hear a lot of comments from a lot of different avenues where I'm at.
yeah.
And
Okay.
that has really made me stop and think. Of course, I've got my own personal views, but does the traditional family matter? And as I
Mm,
have worked with families and worked and heard adults talk about their childhoods and how it has affected them through divorce and all sorts of things, yeah, the more I get into this with either emotion code or coaching, it doesn't matter which direction I'm going. And I'm not even talking religion here.
mm.
Yes, I do believe that the traditional family very much matters to the fabric of society.
Ah,
And
yes.
it's kind of interesting to me. Now, this is a little bit of my own. opinion and things that I've observed, but it seems that the feminist movement, I'm not anti-feminist, I'm not feminist,
Mm.
but it swung so far the
Uh-huh.
other direction that women have almost displaced themselves out of the family to an extent. And I'm speaking
Mhm.
very generally here, that
Yeah.
that might be part of that craving of wanting the healthy family.
Hmm.
They went looking for it out there and
Mm.
didn't find what is innately in us to be in the, I'm not saying you have to stay home, but to be in the home with a healthy family, whether you work or not, you're
Yeah.
still the wife, the mom, you're still in the home, whatever that looks like for you. And we
Yeah.
still crave that healthy family, but sometimes some of those cultural movements haven't served us society-wise like maybe we hoped.
Yes. Oh, look, and you're talking to the right person really in that regards. If you go back and look at some of the positive energy recharges that I've put on my channel, I think Perimenopause and Power is one of the episodes that I released where I made a bit of a bold declaration myself, Shelby, that I did feel that I actually said I think women's place is in the home. And I got like a lot of like backlash there, but it was really just to show. And from my perspective, and this is everything that I'm saying here, it doesn't actually come from a place of judgment or discrimination. It comes from a place of observation and just look, and I suppose still having thoughts and getting curious about things, I think is really important. But I think that the feminist movement of the 60s, particularly, was really trying to just prove that women could be like men, that we could go out into the workforce, that we could earn money, that we were useful in the, if we're going to get really, we're trying not to get really political, but in the whole capitalistic society of production and like being a consumer and being able to produce. We've proven that we can do that, right? Okay, so it seems to be crumbling around the edges in some, different ways. It's coming through, and perhaps the question that when you said, starting to question, does the traditional family matter? I think in some ways we don't even need to come up with an answer. We really just need to question the question. Just really look at the question to see, is it serving us how things are going? Because yes, I do also feel that women have been displaced and we've been living in a man's world, living and running so many women who I was coming in contact with in the women's health clinic, high testosterone, high levels of cortisol. Like there's actually lots of imbalances there happening hormonally because we are living in a man's world trying to keep up with that pace. And so I made this bold declaration that the way that we're going to change the world is by going back to being home and being with our kids, actually, and educating our kids and rewiring the brain and trying to actually work from the inside. And that's the whole point of the message that you're saying right now is going back within and working from the inside. If we can do that as women, because gosh, I get so emotional when I think about it. Like that's our superpower. Our superpower is the feeling element that's really denied, I think, in this culture. And so if we go in and we feel all the feelings and then we teach our kids to feel the feelings and they're so connected with themselves, that's going to be the revolution. But we've worked so hard to be out there. It's going to take a lot of work. Depends too whether you want to change the world or you just want to change your own life. It doesn't have to be this way or the other, but it's going within that I think is going to make the biggest difference. So questioning that question, you've really fired me up, Shelby. I think that's the biggest question. Does the traditional family matter and what place does it have? And yes, I love social media for so many things, but I think that I do find myself that the more that I'm on it to consume, that the less happy I feel with where I am in my life, and the more I feel I need to do to be able to fit that picture that we see. And so it's, yeah, finding the balance, and you've just nailed it perfectly, going within to be able to do that. And so I don't even know if there's anything more to say about it. It's just like, yes. And I suppose it's having the practices to go within. And I suppose that's where things like religion can come in handy. for just what come in handy seems like such a superficial way of putting that. To come in handy, just we have religion just to be able to, but I'm having my own beliefs and practices too to be able to keep ourselves grounded and keep ourselves in a space where we can still be connected with ourselves. And one of my yoga teachers says, be in the world, but not of it. And I've actually got that on my wall because it's just helps me to remind me we can be in the world, but not of it. Like, how can I still have that element of curiosity and still live my life and be connected in my relationships, but not be feeling like I'm consumed by it and not in control of any of it. So, wow, we've covered a lot here. Anything else that comes to your
Yes.
mind after I've just said all of that?
Yeah, there is something actually. When you said, women have gone out there to prove themselves, I think that is a topic just on its own. Who are we even trying to prove ourselves to?
Oh,
Is it the men
yeah.
or is it really us
Mm,
and who our whole idea of womanhood and the power of womanhood
mm,
and all that goes with that? Because I know a lot of kids who wish their mom was home, who wish their
mm,
mom was healthy, who wish their mom could be a mom.
mm.
And yet they're the ones, well, I can't, I don't have time for you. Again, I'm, kind of stereotyping a certain, you know, that might be a little
Yeah.
dangerous there, but,
No.
I can't be home with you because I got to go chase what's out there. Now, I'm not saying that you can't work out the home or that you shouldn't work out of the home or that sometimes it's needed. That's
Mm,
not the point. But when our goal is out there to prove myself, and you're just here when I get home and I'm not doing a very effective job of being mom, those kids notice it.
mm,
And that really hit home for me one day, because I'm a stay-at-home mom and I homeschool my kids and we are always together to the
yeah.
point where I'm like, sometimes I want a little space, you know. It's called balance, right? Like we need to have balance. We all do. But it was I can't remember if it was my birthday or Mother's Day. I don't remember because it was a few years ago. But my one of my kids wrote me a card. He made the card and then he put some money in it. And I'll probably start crying even though years have passed. He he wrote in there, sorry, I didn't know I'd get so
No.
emotional about this.
Mm.
He said, time is money. Oh, sorry. Thank you for spending your time with me.
Oh, that is
And I was like,
beautiful.
wow. I know, sorry. I didn't think I'd cry over that.
Oh,
And he is
I'm
my
crying.
entrepreneurial son. So money is means a lot to him. And I think that will serve him well as a husband and a father as he goes out to provide, right?
Mm,
That isn't a bad view necessarily, but to him, he could see in his mind, what I was giving up, the opportunity to make money in order to stay at home and be with him. And it meant enough for him to give me a good chunk of money for a young kid that
wow.
I was like, wow. Like just for you to even think of that, because we hadn't even had those conversations yet. I thought
Mm,
they were kind of too young for that. But he saw that. My mom could be out working, but instead she's home with me, and that means the world to me. We went on a date with that money.
oh, that's the most beautiful
It was awesome.
story.
But I do think that we overlook who am I trying to prove myself to?
Yeah.
Because there is so much work, good, fulfilling work to do at home. Again, whether or not you work, that sometimes I think it gets overlooked and we're trying to prove our worth out there when we could be living our worth in our own home.
Mm, yes, yes, that's so powerful. And I think that regardless of what you choose to do, I think the question boils down to, are you happy? Like if you are out there doing things outside the home that are lighting you up, that are making you full of joy, and your heart is just exploding with gratitude and service and positive emotion are driving you forward, then Great. That's wonderful because that's only going to emanate towards your family and people around you. But the women that I see and that I coach are not. So it's the question
Yeah.
more that like if that lights you up, it's not about like what I can see what you're trying to do with not stereotype, but at the same time there is like a social construct that we're faced with. So, but if that lights you up to go out there and be doing things outside of that, then great. But if it's causing misery, yeah, who are you doing it for and what are you trying to prove? And who, like, it just all comes back to what is your goal, just as you said. And for me, the first thing that came to my mind is, are you happy? Because I suppose the more that work that I do, the more people that I interact with, and even as my social media grows, you get more people who like you and like the work that you're doing and like the things that you do, but you also get more people who go, what the hell are you talking about? And how, like, who are you to say that rah, rah, rah? Like, I'm sure there's bound to be some comments in the future that may come back to this conversation. Just go, but what the heck, But I always come back to if anything that I have said, if you are happy, and fulfilled and feeling like you're living your purpose on the inside, who cares what I say? Who cares what we're talking about right now? It doesn't matter if what how you're feeling is that you're self-assured and you're feeling good and confident within yourself. If you're actually miserable, which a lot of us out there have been until we've been fortunate enough to find principles that help get us through. We can still be miserable, right? But then it's still we at least are able to say, oh, and train our brains to just flip the different switch and find a different way of looking at it and then be able to move forward in what I consider a much more healthy way. But if you don't have those tools and you're miserable, then perhaps what we're talking about or the things that I'm saying, perhaps there's something there to just get curious about. You just think about maybe might be other options out there available for you rather than just go out bagging other people's opinions that you don't necessarily agree with because it depends on what place that you're coming from. So, wowzers, I think that we're all working towards healthy families and whatever that looks like for you. I think you're
And Jade,
absolutely right. So
I
individual.
think, oh, sorry.
No, no, that was it. It was so individual. No, that's
I just wanted to point out that you and I both work too.
yes,
So
that's
we're
true.
talking about staying home and
Yeah.
working in the home, yet you and I both work.
Yes, that's right. It's true. That's right. It's just a different it's a different I feel like I actually I don't know, have you ever read the book The Last Word on Power by Tracy Goss? Have I mentioned that before? I've been telling everybody about that book and it's actually aimed at corporate women who want to well, maybe not necessarily women, just people in corporate who want to achieve big things and feel like that they've watched other businesses grow and achieve impossible things. And they want to go and actually do something that's never been done before, or they're wanting to. But it's not necessarily a book that I would pick up normally, but someone recommended it to me and said, apply this to your life. Read this book and apply it to your life. And I was thinking, oh, this is really interesting. And so, pretending that I was the CEO of my life and my workplace is my family. I've got my online business. I've got my home. I've got my different departments that I work for, but I'm the CEO. And then looking at that and being able to decide or trying to, if I want to be able to actually be the breadwinner and the homemaker, is that possible? Like, is that actually a possibility that could be how actually looking for evidence about that? And so part of the thing that that book actually helps you to I suppose, navigate if you're trying to achieve things that you don't think are possible for you, but something that you might want to explore in your life. And to declare that what is possible is only what I say is possible. And what is possible is that I could decide that I am going to be the future of lifestyle design for families. And so I guess that's what I'm just trying to say then is it's more about trying to make a declaration that you want to do something that looks a bit different because you want your main goal. For me, anyway, my main goal is to just be at home. How can I do that and still live a life that I felt like I was still giving service, that I still felt like I was contributing financially to the home. And so, look, it's just, I could go on about that, but it's a really powerful book. The Power of the Last Word on Power, that, as I said, is aimed at corporates, but I applied it looking at from myself, my life as from a CEO, as the CEO of my own life. And I found it to be really powerful because we can look in any way that we want it to look, really, can't we? And we can design it in any
Yep.
way we want, but we do get a lot of influence for what's happening out there in the world. And so to be able to try and create something that might not necessarily be within that norm can be really challenging, particularly for women who just want to create healthy families and just have a healthy family. That was a kind of a long way round
Healthy
reflection
families.
of what you just said. But yeah.
Well, coming back to healthy families, though, again, I think this is going to be individual,
Mm,
but back to where we started, we're going looking for the happy family, right?
yeah.
And sometimes what gets us in trouble too is again, our picture in our mind of what that healthy, not healthy, what that happy family looks like. Um, this story is coming to mind. It's come to mind a few times, so I'm going to tell it.
Hmm.
Years ago, we had a babysitter. I mean, a long time ago. I'm sure she's married and has kids of her own now. It's been a long time ago. And I dropped her off one night after she had been babysitting for us, and there was a brand new car sitting in front of her house. And I said, "Oh, did you guys get a new car?" And she said, "Yeah, my mom bought that for me." And I was like, "Well, that's really exciting." And she was like, "Yeah, I guess so." And I kind of was taken aback by that. Of course, I'm a young mom. I had one child at the time who was a baby, right? So I'm like, why is this girl not excited for this brand new car that her mom just bought her? And I said, "Oh, don't you like it?" And she's like, "No, I like the car and I'm very grateful for it. But my mom has worked so hard to buy me that car, and all I wanted was my mom home." So
Oh.
here's this teenage girl who got an amazing gift, and she was a great kid. She
Mm.
was grateful for it, but what she really wanted was connection with her mom. And yet her
Mm.
mom, who had come from a different country and just really wanted to give her daughter more than what she had growing up and thought that she had accomplished that, missed that what her daughter wanted most was conversations with her mom, to see her mom when
Mm.
she came home from school.
Mm.
So questioning that picture, is my picture that I have in my mind of a happy family, does it revolve around a perfect house? Does it revolve around a great career? Does it revolve around these amazing vacations that I take a couple of times a year?
Mm.
Or is it about a healthy family where we're connecting and we can actually want to be in that house because we feel loved and valued, where we have the happy memories and not the doctored up pictures from the vacation? Like what
Mm.
are we going for? Because that healthy, happy family, that healthy, happy family
Yeah.
is different than stuff. Does that make sense? Did
Yes,
I not,
absolutely.
because that was just
Yeah.
kind of a spur of the moment thought. And I've thought about that girl so many times. Again, she
Mm.
came from a great home and her mom loved that woman. She was a good-hearted woman.
Mm.
But sometimes we're giving our kids stuff instead of a principle-based life where they feel loved and valued. And
Yeah.
that might be more important than what we're working for job wise and money wise, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
That makes total sense. And again, I've just these questions that I think are so important for us to ask. What are you working for? What are you working towards? And whether that's your, I mean, that's everything. It's not the things, it's not the stuff. We're working towards connection, we're working towards emotional safety, we're working towards, for me, a spiritual evolution. We actually want to evolve in a way that we can be the best version of what we can be ourselves, but to also be able to help and support and serve other people as well. So I guess it's about asking those questions like, what are we craving? What really does a traditional family matter? And who are you doing it for? Like, what are you doing it for? These are three beautiful questions I think that anyone listening can ask themselves. I'm certainly written those down. I'll be looking at those every morning. I like to ask myself some questions every day to just really keep my mind open to be able to say, well, what is it about and why are we here? And that's been so valuable. Thank you so much, Shelby. I feel like that's a perfect place to leave it, unless you've got something else that you had. I mean, you and I could talk all day, and we'll have to do this again now because we've got so much more.
That's
But
kind of a hot topic, but no, I agree. I think that's a good starting point. Just getting ourselves thinking, what do I want? And
hmm
what does my family want? You
yeah.
know, I can honestly say I've never asked my kids what do they want as a family. I mean, I've asked maybe bits and pieces, but to have that conversation, what is a healthy family? That's kind of sad that I'm even admitting that. I mean, again, we've had lots of conversations, but to pinpoint it, what
Yeah.
does a healthy family look like to you? I'm not sure I've asked that to them, but I do think it's worth asking our kids and
Mm.
our spouse and ourselves, and then blending that together
Mm.
because that could be a really beautiful thing of my kids say stuff all the time that I'm like, wow, you just made me look dumb. Not really, but I was like, that was profound. I did not think about that. And I'm a lot older than you,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So when we can get that input as well as what we want with our spouse, and
hmm
maybe our spouse has thought about it and we never asked, or maybe they've never thought about it and that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
But again, you're right, getting yourself asking those questions, getting yourself thinking about them, and then questioning your intent, because it might
Mm.
be your intent to create a healthy family, but you've only been looking at the picture perfect happy family.
Yeah.
So, anyway,
Perfect, perfect way to end it. I think that these are good questions, really important conversations to have and questions to ask ourselves and ask our families. I'm going to be doing that this week. Thank you so much, Shelby, for your time and all of your beautiful insights. We haven't spoken much about your work, but go and check out the other video with Shelby from a few months ago, where we actually looked very deep into the emotion coding and the other coaching work that she's doing. And you can find information about her in the description below. Thank you so much.